Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 4th edition of Secrets of the Ring with Raven.
This is Secrets of the Ring?
That's Secrets of the Ring.
We're not interviewing a Sandman?
He'll be back later, another time. But it's dated June 11th, I believe, and we are going to discuss the art of being a heel, your specialty. So I will leave.
It's hot in here, Gabe. It's like a sauna.
I know. What's your
Never got this hot in Philly. This is Africa hot. Tarzan couldn't take this kind of hot. It's going to be this hot, I'm not going to be able to stay here. Thank you. That was me doing Matthew Broderick from Bloxy Blues. Thank you. Thank you. And scene.
And what basic characteristics?
What are we doing again?
Being a heel, your specialty. What
like I'm being now?
Yeah. there you go. We're learning already. What characteristics should a heel have?
You should be despicable. I'm going to jump around with this because obviously I don't prepare and I think better off the cusp, and I don't like to make Gabe prepare because he has to prepare everything else, especially he'll be preparing dinner lately. It'll be a fine souffle, and a Gordon Soley type souffle. Anyway, but so I'll just get around and as things interest me, I'll play. Obviously, if you watch these tapes, you know I don't have any program in mind. I just kind of talk as I think. One of the things with being a heel that I didn't realize before I got into business, and I realized much later, is you don't want to be that funny when you're a heel. Because if you're funny, people are going to like you, and you're going to lose all your heelish components. Like, I used to love Cornette as a manager because he was so funny. But I never hated him. But I didn't understand that, you know, you need to hate or love somebody to draw money. I never understood that. That's one of the keys to this business is, if you're just liked or disliked, you're not going to draw money because there's not enough. This whole business is about emotional connection. You have to be emotionally connected to the people in the ring. It's like Fonzie was the biggest star in Happy Days, the biggest star. But once Richie Cunningham left the show, ratings dropped, they plummeted because Richie was the emotional backbone. Fonzie was the bigger star. He was like Kramer. Kramer stands out much more on Seinfeld, but without the emotional component of Jerry and his personal life and his perfectionism and his little quirks and idiosyncrasies, it's not really a show anymore. And that's why shows usually with the when they try and spin off a show like that, it doesn't really work. Like I forget who it was I had a bet with, maybe it was Jericho, about Frasier. And I thought Frasier would never make it. I was completely wrong, but there's a reason why. I thought Frasier would never make it as a spin-off from Cheers because Frasier was this completely idiosyncratic character that stood out, and he was so unique that if you just try to build a show around him, it's going to fail because too much of the idiosyncratic character, and there's no emotional backbone, there's no emotional core. But what they did do in Cheers, which was the exception to the rule, was they built him with such a huge cast, so it was no longer him carrying the piece by himself, so he was able to fit in and mesh with a group, so it actually did work, but it worked because the right reasons. It didn't work just because they put him on a show by himself and told him to run by himself. So, back to Richie Cunningham and Ron Howard. He was the emotional core of that show. And you could relate to him on an emotional level. Fonzie you loved because he was so cool, but you couldn't, you couldn't emotionally connect with him because you couldn't be Fonzie. And so the fans either love you, they hate you, they like you, they dislike you, or they don't care. Don't care is the kiss of death. If they're complacent and they don't care about you, then you're screwed, you're fucked, you're kaput, you're zero, you're adios amigos, auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, ciao. Was my food here yet?
Yes, your food's here.
Ah, tremendous. Tape's just started. No, I know it hurts. That's why you put Luke, that's why they have KY. We're back? Oh, hold on a sec. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Richie Cunningham, Frasier.
Richie Cunningham. So the reason Richie Cunningham is the emotional core of the show. So you have to, in wrestling, to be a draw, you have to be loved or hated. Liked or disliked is not enough because there's no emotional attachment. Wrestling fans, there's a couple kinds of wrestling fans. There's the fans who are going to go to every show, regardless, these smart fans, and they're going to see everything. They're going to, because that's what they love wrestling. They're in a bubble. They live inside the bubble. They love wrestling. They're going to go regardless. Whether shows are bad, shows are good. Generally, man, it's hot in here. Anyway, so there's the smart fans who live in the bubble who go to wrestling anyway, and generally their favorites are not everybody else's favorites because they have what they consider a critical eye, when in actuality they actually have the least discerning eye because they know too much to be a casual fan and enjoy it like a casual fan, but they don't know enough to understand the ramifications of money, doing business, what draws, what doesn't. And so they actually are the least valuable. They're the best fans because they come to everything, but they're the least valuable critic. And if you talk to anybody who's in the know, they're the first people whose voice you're going to discount. They're also the most vocal because they love wrestling and live in a bubble. So their opinions, they're the people who go when there's an indie show and there's 200 people, they're the 200 people. When you want to draw to 200 more and you're bringing in a name guy, whether it's a Duggan or whoever, somebody they may not like at all because, you can't work, they're going to pull in the casual fan. And to pull in the casual fan to draw money, you have to be loved or hated because they have to be emotionally connected. It's like boxing. You could have two great boxers, right? You could have two great boxers. And, but if you don't know who either one of them are, you don't give a shit, you're not going to pay. Now you could have Mike Tyson versus a guy, let's say you take another guy with a name, let's say Lennox Lewis, okay? Now let's say that there's two fighters who are much better than both of them. You're still going to pay to see Tyson versus Lennox Lewis because they have a name. You can connect with them. And in wrestling, because of the nature of the beast, you have to have more than just a name. You have to be because everybody has a name in wrestling because everybody becomes famous. In boxing, only the biggest names become famous. But in wrestling, you have to have a name. I mean, you have to have more than a name. You have to be loved or hated. And as a babyface, you have to be loved. As a heel, you have to be hated. So when you do comedy, people laugh. It's very hard to hate somebody who makes you laugh. And so what I found was, as much as I like Jim Cornette, I think Jim Cornette's a brilliant manager. He's so funny. But I always thought, I hated Paul Lee as a manager. Now, I didn't hate him like, fuck, he sucks. I hated him like he had heat. And Jim Cornette, I loved. I was supposed to hate Jim Cornette and hate Paulie because they're both heels. But I only hated Paulie. I loved Cornette. The difference was Cornette made me laugh, so I couldn't dislike him. I feel like I had some ketchup right here. Do I have any? No, okay. Anyway, Paulie was funny sometimes, but he was funny in a way where he was mean. He was mean funny, where you're like, fuck him. You know what I mean? That's heat. Funny like, cracking up, that's not heat. There's no heat in it. Now, that's not to say Cornette wasn't a brilliant manager, because he's one of the most brilliant of all time. I just think what happened, this is also, he made his bones back when the fans were less discerning as they are now. And so, you know, even though he was funny, you could still hate him. But in today's environment, you can't hate somebody who's funny. It's very hard. You know what I mean? It's very endearing to be funny. So this isn't to bury Cornette at all, because I think Cornette's brilliant. You know, I'd put him up there, him, Bobby DeBrain, and Paulie are the three greatest managers I can think of. I just think, whatever. You know, Cornette will probably get hot about that, but I'm just using it to illustrate a point, so whatever. My point being is, as a heel, you have to be hated. Disliked isn't enough. Unliked isn't enough. Apathetic, that's the worst they could be. And liked or loved or, you know, whatever, that's even the worst. Because you don't want to be, well, actually it's not worse than apathetic, because, you know, I don't care if they're, you know, as long as people are talking, that's good. When people stop talking, they lose interest in you, then you're fucked. So, so you want to be hated. Okay, how do you be hated? Towel change, please. Alright, anyway, how do you be hated? What else how do you be hated? I be hated sometimes. You have to be hated, alright? What else? You have to, alright, let me think. How do I want to deal with this? Alright, how do you engender heat? You can insult people, you can carry yourself in an arrogant manner, you can be pompous, you can be a chicken shit. There are so many ways to get people to piss people off. You know, we were just talking about Punk. Punk walks in such a way where it's just arrogant. I like Punk, but he walks with his chest out and his chin up, like he's a star. That's very arrogant. That's very arrogant and very annoying. That's a very good quality in a heel. You want to be. There's so many different things you can do, but ultimately, to be a heel, you have to get the fans. You have to rile the fans up, and you also have to make the babyface. Now, there's so many. Let me pause it for a second. I want to get my train of thought. I want to make this as concise as I can. So pause. Oh, anyway, I think I'm going to jump ahead here a little bit. I'm going to come back to that, and I'm going to jump around. And you know, because I know I don't usually do that, but I'm going to do it this time. When you're working as a heel, there are a few key things in the actual work rate of being a heel that are so monumentally important. Okay, we can talk about the character. You have to be, you know, an arrogant. You have to be chicken shit. The biggest, you have to be. We can talk about, you know, your in-ring work. We can talk about your walking to the ring. We can talk about your promos. There's a lot of different avenues to hit it. But I think the single biggest key, well, not the single biggest, but one of the most important keys to know is at some point as a heel, you're going to have to show your ass. And I don't mean literally like pull your pants down, like the guy Sunset Flips you, pulls your pants down, and you don't realize you're down, and you walk around and you start fighting back, and your pants are pulled down. You're like, oh my God, my pants are down. Although that is a good spot, but it's a comic spot. And what you have to do is you show your ass in such a way where no matter how much the people, because ultimately if you're a great heel, if you're a really great heel, the people are going to start to respect you. They can't help it. Because no matter how much heat you engender, at some point, because, like in the old days, you didn't have to worry about this so much because the fans they didn't have that critical eye like they do now. Like, I remember as a fan growing up, I remember like I used to watch Florida Championship Wrestling, and this was probably even when I was in high school. And Lex Luger was like the top babyface. I thought he was great because Gordon Soley said he was great. I mean, nobody, this is back in, what, 82, 84, Gabe?
Probably like 84, 85.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, he looked like $1 million, and he used to come out with a tank top and he'd rip off. I mean, he just, you know, he just beat everybody really fast, and you're like, well, fuck, you look good. But now, people see through that shit. I mean, it's funny. It's like, I don't know why they didn't in the past, Gabe, do you? What do you think that is? It's changed the business so much.
The internet?
Nah, but it changed before that. People started seeing through people's work.
Now you have Tough Enough, and you know, people.
But even before all that, people started seeing through work. You know, it's like, for whatever reason, you know, people now. You know, I guess those are all elements that absolutely, that definitely have a part in it. The internet, the Tough Enough. I don't think Tough Enough so much, early because that's so much later. But the internet, I think, the influx of the amount of wrestling. I think also, when you see better wrestling, and there's a lot of it, then you recognize wrestling that's not as good. And back in the day, they did things a lot slower, they took their time, there was a lot less going on, so...
You know, maybe tape trading, like what you just mentioned.
But still, that wouldn't account for the masses. I mean, even the masses now can tell the difference between somebody who's good and somebody who sucks ass.
Yeah.
You know, which back in the day, the casual fan couldn't tell. You know, because I mean, all our friends come up to me, they go, man, that guy sucks. And I'm like, yeah, how do you know? They go, I don't know, he sucks. You know, so I think the proliferation of more moves in a match, I mean, back in the old days, you know, there wasn't as much action, so there was less to see through, you know, and plus, people worked a little snugger. Well, well, yes and no, I mean, whatever. It's really a moot point, but ultimately, you have to show your ass at some point. And that's what I'm saying. So as a heel, eventually when you get over enough, people are going to cheer you. And one of the greatest storyline turns, and I don't even remember the particulars, all I remember is that The Rock came out and the people hated him. When The Rock first came out, the people hated him. They couldn't stand him because New York tried to push him down their throats, and the people saw through that. Whereas back in the day, you push somebody, they didn't see through it. They saw, wow, this guy keeps winning and winning and winning, fuck, he must be good. But now, if the guy's not ready for the position, you know, they see through it. So they pushed The Rock, and he didn't get over for shit. And so then he came back as a heel, and he was just dynamite. I mean, he was unbelievable as a heel. He was funny, he was mean, he was funny, but he was not too funny. There was humor to it, but he wasn't funny like, wow, that fucking guy's hilarious, I want to hang out with him. He was funny in a mean kind of way, and just enough humor. His promos were brilliant, his bump and feed was brilliant, and eventually the people started to respect him. And they really started to like him, and they really started to get behind him. And he may have actually been even hotter than Austin at one point. I mean, not that he did become hotter than Austin, I'm sure, at some point. But the first time he turned, when he became the corporate champion. But he built up to that point, and the people wanted him to turn. They were begging him to turn, and he was so hot. And I don't remember how they did it, but at some point, when the people were about to anoint him as a new babyface, he showed his ass, used Vince's help or whatever he did it in such a way that you're like, what a cheating motherfucker, fuck him. became the corporate champion, and now he had twice the heat that he ever had before. And the funny thing is, you think, well, fuck, they just liked him. Wouldn't it be harder to turn? No, it's actually easier to turn. The more loved you are, the more hated you are, the easier it is to turn, and the more heat you'll have on it. You know, the more over he's babyface, or the more heat you'll have as a heel, because there is so much emotional connection. Like, when you love somebody and you're like, oh, this guy's great, and then the guy fucks you over. It's like you're dating a girl, and then she bangs somebody else. Like, that fucking sucks. Now, if you're in love with the girl and she bangs someone else, fuck you want to beat the shit out of her. I mean, you wouldn't, but or you want to slit your wrist, or what they said in that movie, Say Anything. You want to fuck a girl who looks just like her. Anyway, well, if you guys know so much about women, what are you doing at Gas and Sip at like 3 in the morning alone? By choice, dude. Anyway, so that's real heat. So the more you're loved, when you turn, there's more heat. Consequently, when you're hated that much and you finally do the right thing, they're going to love you even more for it because they hated you so much. So it's much easier to turn when you're at the top of your game than it is, when you're in the middle of the card or at the bottom. And so all these elements should be percolating in your brain now and should be registering, because these are all going to tie in. So you have to show your ass at some point, and Rock did at some point.
Showing your ass, just kind of define that for...
The showing your ass is you do something heelish, something so despicable, something so chicken shit, something so where the people can't like you. Like, I'll give you an example. The Raven character. The Raven character, it's very... Okay, before I get there, remind me about the Raven character showing his ass. Alright. The Road Warriors. The Road Warriors were heels originally, but they just ran through people. I mean, when you crush people and beat people and annihilate them, that's pretty fucking cool. It's kick-ass. That's fucking cool. How do you not like these people? Especially a guy who won't back up. And so they had a hard time staying heel. Eventually they became baby faces, and every time they try and turn them, you couldn't, because they didn't show their ass, didn't know how to show their ass, or wouldn't show their ass, either one. And how do you not like a guy who's a wrecking machine? I mean, how do you not like a guy that always wins and always kicks ass? It's the baddest motherfucker on the block. So when I was coming up with the Raven character, I was originally a chicken shit character. I like being a chicken shit because there's a lot of possibilities with it. There's a lot of depth to the character. There's a lot of ways you can use it, but there were no people buying chicken shit at the time. So I was like, all right, I'll be a tough guy then. I was in the Marines, I'm not tough enough, you know what I mean? I just never considered myself tough compared to the tough guys in this business. So I never wanted to be a tough guy. But I also knew I had to make, how to make a living, and I wanted to be the Raven character. So I was like, all right. So one of the keys to the Raven character is, no matter how much he moped around, no matter how sullen he was, no matter how morose, he never quit, he never gave up. He was relentless in going forward. I mean, he would bitch about it, and he would cry about it. What about me? What about Raven? But he never took a step back. He just kept going forward. Like, even as a, so he would never beg off like a heel. I mean, he was a wrecking machine. Even though he was like Joe Frazier. That's how I likened him. He would take 3 punches to give 1. And so after a while, the people started liking, like, fuck, this guy's pretty tough. I mean, he's kind of whining, and he's kind of a fucking, he's a mopey motherfucker and never takes any responsibility for anything he's done. Always blames somebody else, but ultimately when it comes to a fight, he doesn't back up. He takes an ass whooping. That's kind of cool. Now, this isn't what they're thinking consciously, because maybe some people are, but very few are, because this is more of a subconscious thing. And it floats around in their head, and after a while, they started to like me, and people started to cheer me. And that's not what I wanted, because I like being a heel better. And so, eventually, just for one of the examples, so eventually I'm like, I got to keep myself a heel, because I don't want to be a babyface. I don't like being a babyface. I don't think there's as much depth to the character. I don't think it's as much fun to do. I also put down, I want to talk about how you should always be a heel first, too, as well, in your career. And heels call the match. That's another good point. And why heels call the match. Bump and feed. We'll come back to all this stuff. Anyway, we don't prepare, so this is what you get. This is all it is, folks. This is the show. So I had to do something so despicable that people would fucking continue to hate me, or hate me even more, because now they're starting to cheer me. And like I said, the more they want to like you, the easier it is to make them hate you twice as bad, if you know how to do it and if you're willing to show your ass. And so it was I had the Sandman's wife, his estranged wife, as my valet, which that should get some heat because the Sandman was a beloved babyface in ECW, but it's not that much heat because she was kind of she kind of came across like a bitch on TV anyway, so she wasn't that liked anyway. So her not being with him and being with me, that didn't give the heat. You know what I mean? All that did was it added to my act. And I dressed her in a Kinder Horror outfit like Courtney Love with the garish eye makeup. I thought it was sexy as hell too. Fucking, you know, she had them big fake titties and the outfit, the baby doll dress that only came like right below her crotch. She had the fucking raccoon eyes. You know what I mean? Oh, it's great. Anyway, so we needed to do something because, you know, I don't want to turn babyface and I'm in a feud with the Sandman. You know, we can't have two baby faces because that doesn't draw money. Also talk about how ECW there was no faces and heels until I made them everybody heels. So I don't think I'm absolutely positive it wasn't my idea, but I'll take credit for it anyway. But I'm pretty sure it was Paulie's, Gabe, to come out with Tyler. Was that Paulie's or was that Sandman's?
I have no idea.
All right. Anyway, Sandman had a 7-year-old son at the time, Tyler Fullington, because the Sandman's last name is Fullington. Sandman Fullington. That's on his birth certificate. Sandman Fullington. Sandman Hack Fullington. And so he man, it's hot here. So we had a fucking and we got like what 65 in here too. It's just fucking heat lamps. I better get a tan out of this. So so he brought in Tyler Fullington as his son, but we did it in such a way, and if I remember it right, we did something. How's that for memory? We did something. Pretty good memory. I believe I had barbed wire wrapped around my head, and my hair is really curly, or it was at the time, because it's now straight because I straightened it, but my hair is naturally curly, and my hair I always got with it wet, but now it's dried, so the barbed wire is sticking up and stuck in my hair. There's no way I can get it out without ripping my hair off unless somebody helps me, and I don't want it poking me in the eye because it's jabbing me everywhere because my hair's all everywhere. I got Lori in front of me, which right off the bat, anybody who would put a girl in front of him to fight his own battles or to keep from getting hit, that's kind of a cunt, you know what I mean? So right away, that's always a good way to show your asses if you got a valet. Oh, you know what I like to do also do the thing about working with a valet. That's a whole other bit, but write that down for somewhere, because I see so many guys with valets that have no idea how to use them, and it's a complete waste of fucking time and energy and people. Because if you don't know how to use them, then what's the point? There's psychology and ref psychology too. I had a lot of stuff to cover and more tapes. Keep buying the tapes. The Jedi mind trick. Keep buying the tapes. Remember the one and only with Henry Winkler? Hey, I had my test. Remember that?
I didn't see it.
All right, I have to go back to this. I'll come back to my point about Tyler Fullington. But there's this movie called The One and Only, and it was starring Henry Winkler, who was the Fonzie, as it was basically being a George's Gorge character. It was basically a George's Gorge who was the original fucking pretty boy, character, with all the perfumed hair. He was a great heel. So actually, I'll get into it this way, and let me make my point about Tyler, and I'll come back to The One and Only. All right. So me and Lori are backing up. The Sandman's ready to cane me, but I got Lori in front of me, and he's to the point where he's so fed up that fuck it, he's gonna cane his wife to get to me. I got barbed wire in my hair. And running out of the back comes his 7-year-old son, gets in front of me, goes, puts his arms up in my pose, goes, "Daddy, you're a drunk. I worship Raven." Boo! You fucking bat, fuck you! People were fucking livid. They were fucking livid. I mean, what kind of... Everyone can identify. That's another thing. You want people to be able to identify with it. Everyone can identify with Sandman. Because he was a beer-drinking, cigarette-smoking guy with no wrestling gear who basically got off the couch, and the only reason he could do it and everybody else couldn't, because everybody else wanted to do it. I mean, let's face it, if you're a wrestling fan, at some point on some level, you'd love to be in the ring doing it. But most people can't because it's fucking hard. It's really fucking hard. That's why very few people make it successfully, because it's fucking hard. Not just hard physically, it's hard mentally, it's hard emotionally, and it's also hard to do. I can't stress enough. I just spit on myself. It's really hard to do. It's not like, in baseball, okay, you catch a ball, you throw a ball, you run the bases. Not that that's not difficult, but you don't have to think on your feet, because there's only so much you can do with it. Basketball, you can pass it, you can dribble, you can shoot. Hockey, you can shoot, you can pass, you can, whatever. All those sports, even though they have plays and stuff, Everything is set up, so all you have to, you don't have to come up with anything yourself. You're told what to do. Only in wrestling do you have to think for yourself. If something changes on the fly, you have to figure it out on your fly, figure out how to fix it. We're directors, producers, choreographers, stuntmen, actors, actresses too. Not great actors, not great actresses, but actors nonetheless, and we're all better than Anakin Skywalker because he was more wooden than George Washington's teeth. Anyway, or his performance was. So, the only sport where you have to think at all times, especially when you're calling shit in the ring, if you set it up in the back, you're more performing than working. But still, nevertheless, when things change, which they often do, and 9 times out of 10 always will, you have to be able to think on your feet. And no other sport do you really have to think that much. Other than, the quarterback has to think quite a bit, but still not that much. Wrestling is really fucking hard to do. So, we have the Sandman, who's beloved because he's one of them. He's the baddest motherfucker that just came off the street and said, you know what? I can fucking do this and I can kick some fucking ass. And that's why people loved him. They could all, I mean, who hasn't sat on their couch drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, going, fuck, maybe not smoking a cigarette, and going, fuck, I want to be a wrestler. You know what I mean? I want to kick somebody's fucking ass. And he was tough enough to do it. So they identified with him. Everyone can identify with Raven because there's always some kid that they know they are, or they know of, who always blamed everybody else for his problems, who fucking never fit in, but always blamed the jocks or the smart kids or the rich kids or the whoever, it was always their fault. And he was, you get it, you get the point. So you have two characters. I'm building up a response where people are starting to love me anyway, because like I said before, he's already beloved. Now I have this 7-year-old kid run out in front of me and go and say these words, Daddy, you're a drunk, I worship Raven. Well, fuck, what a dick move. It's bad enough I got a girl in front of me, his estranged wife keeping him so he won't cane me. Now I got his fucking 7-year-old kid. I mean, and how many times, I'm sure you know somebody or they know somebody or you have a friend who knows somebody who's had a divorced family and one of the parents uses the kid as leverage, which is probably as low a thing as you can fucking do. I mean, other than like pedophile, being a pedophile or something really fucking low. I'm saying, what's one of the lowest things you can do that you can't be jailed for? Because it's not the kid's fault. I mean, the kid wants 2 loving parents. The last thing that he wants is to use him against another parent is so fucking cold because the kid, all he wants is love from 2 parents. And now the one parent's going, well, fuck you. You're not, fucking with the other person. It's just so colossally wrong and cruel that how do you like somebody who does it? And that's what made the angle so strong. The people were like, fuck you, motherfucker. I turned his own son against him. I mean, it's heat. But that's how you show your ass because what a despicable thing. I did something that was so despicable, so unlikable, so cruel that whatever love that they had built instantly turned the other way. And it was phenomenal. I mean, and it worked brilliantly. And the kid was great too. I mean, the kid got great promos. I'd be drunk every once in a while. And the kid, like every once in a while, I'd forget my line. Like I forget to feed the kid his line. Didn't matter. Kid knew exactly when to cut in and go, quote the Raven, nevermore. He's so cute. So that's how you show your ass. That's one way. Another way of showing your ass is, like I said about with The Rock. Because Vince, and what made it so fucked up what's so great about with The Rock is Vince McMahon was the most hated guy in the business. He was like Vanilla Ice. He was fucking the biggest heel on the planet. And so when you align yourself with the biggest heel on the planet, well, people aren't going to like you. It's pretty simple. It's simple math. What were some of the other things I was talking about there?
Bump and feed would be good.
There's a couple things I want to hit. Oh, no, the Henry Winkler thing. Oh. So the one and only. So, I love this, though. I just have to tell this. In the one and only, basically it's like the life story of Gorgeous George, but it's based on that, but it's, a lot different. But so Henry Winkler plays Gorgeous George, or the Gorgeous George character. And so, early in his career, he's playing a guy who does hypnotism, right? So this is supposed to be taking place in the 50s. So the referee gets distracted. He goes, and the guy starts going. People go, Raph, he's using hypnosis. It's so great. Like the fans are incensed because the guy's using hypnosis to get heat. Which in the 50s, people bought this. I mean, it was so much easier in the 50s to say that wrestling is real because A, it was snugger. B, you weren't bouncing around off the ropes doing 80 million high spots. You know, it didn't look as fake. Or if it did, the people's eye weren't as discerning. And so when it was much easier to stay a heel. You would just insult the fans. Now you insult the fans, they like it. You know, it's like my hero was Don Rickles. If Don Rickles insulted me, that would be like I could go to heaven now. You know, so if you're a fan and you're like, you know, like there's this one line I love to use in like small towns where you can actually insult the fans and they'll hate you for it, like West Virginia. So that's not a town, but you know, in towns in West Virginia, I'll be like, you know, as I walk out here, there's a bad smell. I don't know, you know, I couldn't figure out what it was, and then I realized it's bad body odor. I said, you people smell. I go, you know, if bad body odor were a crime, each and every one of you would get the electric chair. No, it's preposterous, right? But you say that in a town, you said that 10, 20 years ago, fuck you, we don't stink, boo, fuck you. He's using hypnosis. You know, now you insult the fans, you insulted us, we like that. So it's much harder to be a heel now. You know, people's tastes have changed. You know, we like our heroes to wear black hats. In the old days, the hero wore a white hat. That's actually how they got that saying, white hats and black hats, because in the old days, in the movies, the good guy always wore white, the bad guy always wore black. White is the side of angels and heaven, black is the side of dark, you know, angels and lightness and light. Black is the side of darkness and the devil. So, I mean, it's very simple, black and white. Wrestling's a morality play, black and white. Good guys wear white hats, bad guys wear black hats. And that one is for the movies, too. Movies, anything. White hats, black hats. Baby faces and heels. So, what worked then doesn't work now. Like, you know, back then, it was, you know, if you were just a German, you know, because after World War II, people hated you just for being a German because they hated the Nazis so much. Hate by association. The Iron Sheik, when he came out, we didn't get along with Iran, so hate by association. Ludwig Borga, we don't like Finland. Oh wait, that's a different case. Anyway, Canadians. Oh, actually, nobody likes Canadians. I don't even think Canadians like Canadians. You know, they know much more about us than we know about them, which proves that they want to be us, which just suck asses. Anyway, so much harder to be a heel now than then. Plus, it's also, before you could just break the rules. You know, you weren't allowed to use a closed fist before. I'm not actually certain what an open fist is, but you could use a closed fist. But I think actually that Mike Graham actually used to use an open fist because he would punch you like this in the old days, and that I believe is the open fist. This is a closed fist. That's an open fist, and works for me. Anyway, so in the old days you couldn't use a fist, so like, you know, you would go grab the guy in a headlock, you turn him away from the ref, you punch him in the face with a fist. The guy would sell it. See. One punch then, you sold the fuck out of it. Now guys get hit 40, 50 times a match and don't even sell any of them. And make sure I'm snapping your head back. That's so important. Oh, it drives me nuts. I want to get to that. So back then it was so much easier to be a heel. You know, you weren't allowed to rake the eyes back then. I mean, you're still not allowed to, but everyone does it. It's like the rules have become so blurred that it's so much harder to be a true heel nowadays that if you can get over as a heel, you're going to make it somewhere if you can really get the people to hate you. And that takes a lot of presence, a lot of charisma, and you have to be able, and more importantly, willing to show your ass. Gorgeous George, he used to come out. He came out with a manservant, you know, a guy valet, which was great because then people thought he was gay. You know what I mean? And that's just heat, you know, because people don't like gays, or they hated gays back then. You know, now gays are, you know, building, you know, their own little empire, which is great because I mean, I think everybody should be treated equal. But it's, you know, it's still an easy way to get some cheap heat, you know, going for the gay route. But George's wasn't that simple though. He had a manservant who would lay like who would spray his hair with perfume or with hairspray or something, and he'd have like gold bobby pins in his hair. He'd flick to the crowd, I believe, and the fans. And he had these expensive robes. Bleached blonde hair with the curls, and he made it a production. He didn't just come out like, you know, we just wet our hair and come out. He put his hair, he styled it in such a way that it looked like he spent hours on it, which I'm sure he probably spent some time on it. You know, like he just came out of the salon, the beauty salon. I mean, and he looked the part. He was believable. You have to be believable, and you have to look the part, you have to believe the part. Like, a little sidebar, Lance in TNA, what's his, Lance Hoyt? And then, guy's name? The, what was his gimmick name before? Texas or Dallas?
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
It was Dallas, now it's Lance, I think. When it was Kid Cash's bodyguard as a heel. And I kept telling him, I go, you look like a babyface. I go, you're a good-looking guy, you're well-built, you're big for our company, and you're a good-looking guy, and you don't have any mean faces, so why would anyone dislike you? You don't really cheat at all. I mean, you know, if you're going to be a heel, you know, it's much easier, you know, you got to look the part. You know, you should look mad, you should look evil, whatever. I mean, you can't just be like, hey, how you doing? You know, like, if I cut my hair off, if I cut my hair short, if I shave all this crap off, I'm not a bad, or at least maybe now I am, but when I started, I was actually a really good-looking guy. I mean, you know, I got some pictures I can show you. Here, hold on, let me show you this. Stay, keep the camera right there. I got a picture. Let me find something here. Let me see if I have a picture. Hold on. I got some pictures here. Let me see. Hold on. All right, let's see. All right. Oh, wait, here we have a picture of me in my high school. This picture is actually on Nova's wall. It's my 1982 high school graduation picture. Look at that afro. Okay, so I wasn't good looking then. Actually, that was in style then, so I was actually good looking then. But what a ridiculous picture. Hold on. Whores. Oh, never mind. Whores. My buddy's wedding. Here's a guy shooting water out of his ass 30 feet. The guy's bent over on all fours. That was during a 5-day binge. Here's a picture of a midget putting me on his shoulders. Here's when I used to have 2 heads, me and Christian. Hold on. Here's me super kicking the french fries. More whores. Oh, actually, that's my old valet Chastity. The Sandman and me in my barbed wire match. What else we got here? Oh, here's Nova's wall with the picture on it. Now this is an interesting picture. Here's me after me and some girl did a bunch of ecstasy and GHB. I passed out while I was fucking her. We both passed out, and my buddy took a picture. Here's me and Eddie Gilbert, the late Eddie Gilbert. What else we got here? More whores. Trinity, she's such a beauty. Francine. I got all kinds of crazy pictures in here. Here's the cane bending over Sandman's head. Here's me and Sabu and Shane at the Sabu show. I gotta have an old picture here. Wow, here's a classic. Here's Fat D'Amore eating a sandwich. Look, I love Scott D'Amore. Look how fat he is. Looks like a little 12-year-old kid. And look, he's got the sandwich there, and he's trying to hide it so the camera doesn't see him eating. Fat bastard. All right, here's not a bad look. Now, if you picture me cutting the mullet off, because mullets were in style then, good-looking guy. Anyway, my point being is, if you don't look the part, you're not gonna actually be the part. You know what I mean? It's very hard. Like, it's very hard to get across the point that you're mean, evil, and intimidating if you're just a young, good-looking guy. You know, it's much more difficult. And by the same token, if you're an evil, remember the guy named Bull Curry? I showed you the picture in the old magazine. He had these thick eyebrows. He was just mean looking. You know what I mean? Or George the Animal Steel. Back in the day, you know, I mean, he became cuter. George the Animal Steel actually became cute as he got older. But when he was a heel, man, he was scary. Abdullah the Butcher, before he got as big as he did and got as old, and now he becomes cute because with age, when that happens. But Abdullah was so terrifying to me, Abdullah the Butcher. And we used to go to the matches. I used to live like 2/3 of a mile from the West Palm Beach Auditorium. We would go every Monday. He was so scary. Like, we would run down like all the kids did. We would run down to the, you know, to the fenced area where the heels and babyfaces would come out when they made their entrances to get a close-up look. And he would start to walk at you. I literally would, like, most times we wouldn't back up because we're like, they can't hit us. They'll get in trouble. Like, you know, we're kids. We're 12. We're smart enough to know we can't be hit. We can yell, but we can't touch them or hit them with shit. But we know we can yell, fuck you, and get this close and they can't do anything. Abdullah would take a step to me. I flew back 5 feet. I mean, he was fucking scary. When I found out that he was really a Canadian, like just a fat guy from Canada, and not really from the Sudan, and I was so heartbroken. He was so convincing, so believable in his gimmick that he didn't speak any English, that he was a madman from the Sudan, and he used to wear those white butcher pants. Remember that, Gabe? He was fucking terrifying. And that's how you draw money. You know, I didn't really get to see him in his true heyday, but even like, you know, 20 years ago, Yeah, 20 years ago when I was 12, yeah, but 20 years ago when I was 12, I used to go see him at the, you're not even gonna call me on that, Gabe? Even when I used to see him at the West Palm Beach Auditorium back in the mid 70s, early 80s, I guess, by the time whenever he came there, he was fucking scary. So you have to be the part. You gotta look the part. You gotta dress the part. You gotta act the part. You gotta show your ass. My nose itches. I mean, somebody's talking about me. You talking about me, Gabe? All right, what else we got over there?
Bumping and feeding. Please explain that, because no one gets it right.
Yeah, but I want to save the actual ring stuff for. I want to get everything before I get to that, if that's all right. What else we got in there?
How about doing big moves as a heel and?
Well, I'm saying I want to save all the work rate for one thing. I want to cover as much as I can before I actually get to the in-ring stuff.
How about having the heel attitude outside the ring?
Yeah, the minute you walk through the curtain, you're a heel.
Don't you think you should kind of like? I mean, I'll admit, when you were a big heel in ECW, it might have been the drugs, but you're also kind of an asshole.
Yeah, no, it was both.
I read Kevin Nash was saying how you have to have that heel. The best heels are kind of assholes in real life, anyways.
Yeah, but it's funny. The best heels are usually assholes, but they're actually much nicer than the baby faces because we're not as big prima donnas and egocentric because we know we're going to lose in the end. So our ego is not nearly as at stake. We know we're going to get humiliated. We know we're going to be made to look stupid. You know, the heel, whether he's, because ultimately the heel has to be the guy who says, now everybody just taps out. But back in the old days, before MMA got big, you would say, I quit. There was I quit matches. And quitting was huge. If you quit, I mean, you were a pussy because nobody quit. And the heel would be like, I quit, I quit, I quit. I mean, you had to sell it in such a way it would be like, you know what? Fuck you. We thought you were tough, you fucking pussy. You know what I mean? Even though they couldn't do it, they live vicariously through what we do in the ring. And so you have to carry yourself. You know, so ultimately, because of that, heels generally, you know, and that's what people have always said for years, like, man, we thought that you guys heels were going to be jerks, but you guys are much nicer than baby faces because they ultimately always win in the end. They always triumph over evil. So it becomes much more of an ego thing, which is why I think everybody should be a heel first, because that way you learn to lose your ego. And like I've said many a time before, Vince McMahon was the hottest heel in the country. He was the Vanilla Ice of the fucking day. He fucking was a billionaire, owned the company. And yet, when it came time for Steve Austin to humiliate him, Steve Austin pulled the gun, the little thing said bang on it, and Vince peed his pants out of fear.
That's part of showing your ass, too?
That is showing your ass. You couldn't show your ass anymore now. You couldn't do anything more humiliating. I talked about the snotty to body things on previous tapes. Me picking my nose going, that's humiliating and embarrassing. But when you're smart to the business, it's not humiliating and embarrassing. It's business. It's making money. Like anybody who hasn't seen the tapes, real quick story. When I went to Portland, Roddy Piper brought me in, said, you got 3 weeks to get over. Made me a heel commentator, the first one he ever had in Portland, and also made me a wrestler, and said, you got 3 weeks to get over. He goes, since you're calling yourself Scotty the Body, first episode, when we come on here, I want you picking your nose, so they'll call you Snotty the Body, so that people can identify with you. And I'm thinking, oh, that's humiliating. But there I am picking we're back? And then eventually it got so over, I got that instant connection with the fans. Because remember, I said you got to be loved or hated. That gave me such a jump start, because now they had something to call me, something that entertained them so they could play along. Because remember, wrestling is one of those only sports where the home is involved. It's kind of like Who Wants the Millionaire show with Regis Philbin. What's that? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And you can call Lifeline at home, and you can actually get somebody else to be part of the show. That's what wrestling is, except the entire audience is part of the show. They boo, the heel gets mad. They cheer, the babyface gets excited. So they're a part of the show. So if they found a way to connect with you emotionally, like we talked about before, by just the simple thing of calling you a name like Snotty the Body. Like I remember when Lex was a heel, they would call him Flexi Lexi. I'm like, that's not insulting. That's not going to bother him. And that's why it never stuck in the fans. Lex never really showed his ass, so it was kind of hard to hate him, except he was so arrogant that showed through. But if you're going to come up with a name like, what does Jericho call Stephanie, a cum-catching gutter slut or something? Oh, that's fucking heat. That's and she has to be offended by that. So it bothers her. Whereas Flexi Lexi couldn't bother anybody, so it doesn't get their goat. But if you find something and and the fans know it bothers you, and here's the thing too, if they do something and it bothers you and you don't sell it, why would they continue to do it? So if they're out there yelling snotty to body, and I'm gonna be cool, doesn't bother me, why would they do it? That's part of showing your ass. They're going snotty. I would get so pissed. I mean, not really. My character would get so pissed. He'd go livid. And so the people would do it more. Now, just think about this for a sec. If I didn't sell it, if they're yelling snotty and I'm going, and I go lock up, why the fuck should they keep doing it? It didn't get to me. The whole point is to build that connection. They want to piss me off. I want to fucking sell that I'm pissed off, so they're getting to me, so they'll do it more. It's a very simple equation. It's so fucking simple. But the problem is, I definitely need a new towel now. The problem is people want to look cool, and that's why I say about baby faces, they should be heels first, so they learn how to look like a jackass, so that when they're a baby face, you know, they won't mind. Because at some point it's going to happen to them. At some point they have to show a bit of ass too, so that people can identify. Okay, just real quick, if the baby face doesn't even show the teeniest bit at any point, you can't feel that emotional bond with them because there's no sympathy. Because it's like, if anything, if the heel makes any kind of response and it doesn't bother babyface, well, fuck. If you're not pissing somebody, if the heel says something and babyface doesn't care, then why should he be mad enough to beat you up? So at some point, that's the whole thing. The whole concept is the heel does something so despicable, so evil, so something to piss the babyface off that the babyface wants revenge. Now you've got a program. The heel has heat. The babyface has a quest or a journey, because that's all movies, all stories. Joseph Campbell wrote a book about it called The Legend of Myths, or whatever the hell it is. But from Star Wars to Indiana Jones to anything else, the babyface go from Homer, going back all the way to ancient Greece. The babyface goes on a quest to vanquish whatever opponent it is, whether it's evil or whatever, you know, find the lost treasure, whatever, and encounters all these problems along the way on to victory. It makes an interesting story. The more interesting you can make it, the better it is. So if the heel doesn't pose a formidable threat, there's really not much emotional jeopardy, because everything boils down to jeopardy, not the game show. Because the answer is, if the babyface is never in any kind of jeopardy, then the people never feel for him enough. The best description I can ever give you is there's two. One is Rocky 1, 13th round. Rocky gets knocked down. He's down, and people are going, and they slow time down, so it's 1, 2, and they're making the count. They get to 8, and in slow motion, his corner goes, "Stay down." And he gets up anyway, and you're like, God damn, fuck. Didn't throw a single punch, and this is all going to be covered in the Babyface lecture or the next tape. But already covered in the Babyface lecture, I forgot. But my whole point is he's trying to fight these insurmountable odds. Apollo Creed is making this so hard for him. So it's an epic journey. If Rocky just knocked out Apollo Creed in the first round, where's the story? Do you know what I mean? Where's the drama? Like the TNT commercial, we do drama. That's what wrestling is. Wrestling is a drama. It's a soap opera. I try and tell people it's like General Hospital in the ring. The Days of Our Lives in a ring. The Bold and the Beautiful in a ring. Fucking, what was that vampire one they used to have? Barnabas Collins. Remember that? Whatever. I was trying to remember that. Anyway, so it's not just an athletic contest. But what makes wrestling so great is because it's an athletic contest as well. Imagine a Super Bowl where the game's 34-0. It's not very interesting. Imagine it goes down to the wire and it's 34-33. That's like, wow. You know what I mean? We can make every match go right down to the wire. But what makes it so much better is we have emotional conflict between the babyface and the heel, and the fans are involved in it. So we're all emotionally involved in this. I sped off the tangent, but what was the thing that triggered this? Because this is a good point. Rich, pay attention, Rich. You're going to start paying more attention.
Attitude of a heel.
Yeah, so the attitude of a heel. So the attitude is so important. The minute you get to the building, you are a fucking heel. The minute you you don't stop being a heel till you go through the curtain, especially in these small shows. I mean, if you're a big name, it's kind of hard. If you're like the big name heel, if you're like a star, I'm talking about indie shows. That's what most people are on. It's kind of hard to be a heel because the people came, they paid extra. More people paid to see you than anybody else. So if you're kind of a dick, that's kind of a dick move. But if you're an indie guy, yeah, the minute you walk through that door, the minute you actually pull into the parking lot, you're a fucking heel. And you're a heel till you walk through the curtain into the back. The minute you come back out of the curtain for your match, you're a fucking heel until you're back through the curtain. And the minute you leave the curtain, if you're not coming back for a while, then you want to sign autographs, great, that's fine, that's totally cool, because that's, you want to take care of people. But then you can sign them afterwards. But it's very hard, like, if you come walking into the building, and WWE's different, because it's a different level, and Vince wants everybody to be nice, and it's a different thing, and it's also, you come back to the towns once a year, or twice a year, so it's a different market, and they're also, if there's 15,000 people in a building, you're running to 50 people and you're nice to them, that's no big deal. However, you go to a building with 200 to 500 people, and you walk through and you see 50 people, that's 1/10 of them, or 1/4 of them, and you're fucking, hey, let me sign autographs. Why the fuck should they boo you? You just signed an autograph for their 4-year-old kid. Everybody's trying to boo you, and you're like, no, he's not so bad. Listen, fucking sign an autograph for my kid. They're like, oh. And they go, all of a sudden now the whole row knows. So you're a heel the whole time you're there, except when you're in the locker room. The minute you pull into the parking lot, you got your game face on. Because this is, the difference between this and anything else is it's shoot-like based. So you have to pretend to be that person all the fucking time. If you just come out there, hey, how you doing? You're like, high five. It's very hard to hate you. It's very hard for them to boo you later. Because people are just like, well, he was kind of nice. And then if they are booing you, they're just going along with the story and it's a half-hearted and it's not an emotional connection. You want to be the character. You want to be an arrogant prick. You want to be a chicken shit. You want to be something that is unlikable. And so part of that is looking the part. Part of that is being the part. Stevie Richards was such a great heel because in the ECW, because you looked at him, you just wanted to punch him in the face. He just had that look. I don't know why. I wanted to punch him in the face. I love Stevie to death, one of my favorite people in the whole world. But there was something about him that when you see him, not anymore, but he was that guy, whatever internal baggage he had going on, it came through. It's like, that's a secret to acting. Any acting coach will tell you. What you feel inside comes out through your eyes. So if you're feeling pain inside, emotional pain, that is, not like physical. Physical. It's coming out through your eyes. And something about Stevie, you want to punch him in the fucking face. And you don't want to stop hitting him until he's fucking dead. And then I put him in the Daisy Dukes and the half shirt. Oh my, now he's a schmuck. This was so great about the character. The character wanted to be like Raven. Raven had long jean shorts down to his knees, ripped up concert shirts, black, with cool bands on it, cut off at the sleeves to show off his arms. Stevie wore a half shirt to be like Raven, but he cut it all the way up to his chest instead of and he had bands like Warrant and Poison, fag bands, hair bands. He would also have like stupid stuff on there, like, he'd have like Wham, which is just, the wrestling fans that were, beer drinking, JD swilling, Wham, it was heat.
Showing your ass.
Showing your ass. And it was a white shirt instead of black, and it was cut up to here so it showed his body. In fact, I was just on the phone with Stevie today because tonight's the ECW reunion show, and Sunday's their pay-per-view. And he goes, man, I put on the old Stevie Richards outfit. He goes, I look so gay. He goes, I look twice as gay as I used to. I go, yeah, because you're more built now, so now you're all filled out. Now you look like, and these are, one of the reasons the gay thing gets so much heat is a lot of people are, what's the word? Probably gay. And so, there's a lot of people that are closet homosexuals that don't know it. And so there's instantly a lot of heat because they don't want to admit what they are to themselves. That's part of it. A lot of people are scared that if they're around gay people, they'll become gay. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because nobody complains about lesbians. So why is there anything wrong with gays? But that's a whole other lecture. But, so, nobody wants to taint on him. People are scared of it, whatever. So Stevie looked very gay. Then he'd wear the Daisy Dukes instead of the long jean shorts like I would wear, because his character was kind of a nitwit. So he didn't quite get the point. He wanted to be like Raven, so he's like, well, I got jean shorts, I got a concert shirt, I'm like Raven. And that's what was the beauty of the character. And it took me forever. Oh, he so didn't want to wear it because he would look like a jackass. He didn't want to show his ass. But I made him and he showed his ass, and he was so, the fact that he was able to turn babyface was astounding, because he had so much heat. There are the few exceptions when you have so much heat where you can't turn babyface, where they're not going to like you anyway. And he was one of those guys. But eventually, standing up to me allowed him to turn because they hated me worse, and because of the way I treated him. So he actually got sympathetic. All right, so the whole Stevie Richards thing we're talking about. So he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to show his ass. Didn't want to look stupid. And then once he did do it, it took him a long time to get used to it. Once he got used to it, Stevie is a phenomenal worker, but Stevie is not afraid to do anything. He will do anything because he knows it's a fucking business. He knows that is Stevie Richards, not Michael Manna. That's a character. Doesn't matter how much of his whole real life is based on it, it's still not him. So he wore the Daisy Dukes, and it was just heat. I mean, it was tremendous. It's so important to look the part. He wanted to be a chicken shit heel. I mean, that's what we decided he was going to be. So that's what he dressed the part as. Abdul the Butcher. He was going to be a kick-ass, evil, vicious heel. And if you've never seen old Abdul the Butcher, find some old magazines, because it's not the same guy you see now. It wasn't nearly as heavy as he was. It was a much more solid looking heavy. But even now he's still solid. But I mean, he came out with a fork or something. He had something, he looked deranged, first of all. Like, he didn't talk because suppose he's from the Sudan, which I truly believed even until I was like 15 or 16. Truly, so you thought he was from the Sudan. You thought he didn't speak English. He would walk around like he was legitimately psychotic, like he'd spend time in a loony bin, and he'd look around, and then when somebody would get hurt, there'd be this look in his eyes, like this bloodlust, and he'd go nuts, and he'd jab you with the fork, and he did it so well that you're like, how the fuck is he working that? You know what I mean? Because it's like, fuck, he's hitting you, and maybe he was, but I'm sure he wasn't with what I'm saying, but it looked like it. And then back in the day, you could do so much more. Like, he'd bring out a foreign object, and the ref would go to check him. So he'd have it in his trunks, right, hidden back behind him. And the ref would always check your boots. That's what they're doing. They're checking your boots and to make sure there's no foreign objects on you. And so now I know a lot of this doesn't apply now, except it does because these concepts, if you understand them, you can apply them in the current idiom. In the current vernacular. You can't, you can even do some of this stuff, you know what I mean? But so he'd have the fork, and then pull it out, then the ref would go, let me check your waist, and he would turn around, there it is, put the camera on me, like, that would just shit there. Hold on, microphone fell. We've got to piper it down, we've got to piper it down. That's from Sorry Married an Expert. Alright, so, let's say that, let me get a foreign object. Or a domestic object if I bought it in the States. Alright, so I got a pen. So he'd have the pen, and the pen's hidden in the back of his pants. So the ref would check him, and the ref would go to check his waist, he'd back away, and then he would take the pen out. And so now, if I'm facing that way, if the referee's that way, he would put the pen in his mouth. So now the ref's checking his waist, can't see his mouth. They would see, the ref would go, he doesn't have anything because I just checked his waist, not knowing it's in his mouth. And the fans would start screaming, he's got a fucking fork or a pen. He's got a pen. And the ref would come back and check again. Maybe he's sticking under his armpit. And so he'd show his hands, lift up like that, he'd check the waist, whatever. And then he'd fucking go to stalk the guy. Just the act of stalking. The place would erupt. It would erupt. Because they're like, this motherfucker. Now, if he was a guy, okay, Samoa Joe. I love Samoa Joe. But if Samoa Joe did it, he looks like a jolly nice guy. I don't think in any way you could make me believe Samoa Joe was a bloodlust madman because he's just too nice a guy. He's got a baby face, which is why he plays the part he does tremendously. But there's a reason why people play certain parts. There's a reason why he's not going to play a bloodlust Samoan, whereas like most of the Samoans did for years because they had that crazy hair sticking everywhere and their evil look and they had mean faces. And you're like, oh, these are some crazy motherfuckers. Joe's he's a jolly fat man. So he's not going to play the part of the crazy Samoan. But if you get old tapes like the Samoan SWAT team or fucking Samu or Alpha and Sika look fucking crazy. So you have to look the part. You know, if Jimmy Jacobs is running around, I love Jimmy. If Jimmy's running around with, like he's going to stalk you with it's kind of funny because Jimmy's a cute little guy. You know what I mean? Now he's got the furry boots trying to do the barbarian thing, which is cute, but it's not evil. You know what I mean? There's a difference. You put the boots on Nord the Barbarian or Bruiser Brody, and he's walking around, head scarred to fucking ribbons, eyes bugged out of his head, hair streaming over, hush, hush. You're like, this guy's fucking nuts. It's part of being a character, part of being, you gotta find what works, so you can only, you know, people are a certain thing because they fit that mold. You can't just be something because you want to be it. Stevie was so great because that's what he looked like, a guy who would wear this goofy outfit and you want to beat the shit out of him. Let's cover a couple other guys from today. Who else? Let's see. To keep it more relevant and more current. Mick Foley. When he did the fucking Three Faces of Foley, did the interview with Jim Ross and he bugged out his Cactus Jack and put the mandible claw on him, you bought it. Now he could never get away with it now because now he's beloved and revered. He was so brilliant being psychotic. Of course, this is before he wrote a book, 2 books, children's books, before he retired, before he became a jolly fat man. He was an evil motherfucker. Get some tapes. You believe that he was crazy enough that he would fucking, you know, mandible claw Jim Ross and fucking, in fact, I got a mandible claw story I want to tell real quick after this. But he was so believable in the part, but what happened was, over time, and this is what happens over time, he became such a heel that he became, and took such a beating, the fans started to worship him. They started to respect him. Respect became worship. He ends up becoming a babyface, becomes a commissioner, starts becoming a comedian. Now, if he'd have done all that comedy as a heel, you couldn't have hated him. You couldn't have believed that he was going to mandible claw Jim Ross. Because, and that's why, once you go as far as you can as a heel, sometimes it forces you to be a babyface and never come back. Sometimes, like Kurt Angle, you're so good as a heel that it just doesn't work as a baby. Like, Kurt can stay a heel for the rest of his career. Flair can't, because Flair, I mean, even though they try and make Flair a heel, he's a babyface, because you can't help but worship him. But there's something about Kurt Angle, I don't know what it is, but he's so brilliant at what he does that you can hate him no matter how much you respect him, no matter how much you like him, no matter how goddamn good he is. He always shows his ass, and sometimes it's so fucking subtle, you don't know what the fuck it is. I mean, I don't even know what it is half the time, but all I know is I'm like, wow, if I was a fan, I would hate him. People hate him. It's great. It's fucking, he's so fucking talented. Rey Mysterio, you couldn't hate him if you wanted to. Eddie Guerrero, he's so good at being a heel, turns himself babyface. And that's the one thing, unless there's a way for you to show your ass. And I'm sure there is for Eddie. They just haven't got to it or found it or wanted them to, or for whatever reason. Or maybe they are. I mean, I don't watch the show. I just, keep up with it. Yo, and that's another thing, real quick. Always keep up with the business. Doesn't matter if you're not in the company. Like, always try and keep, even Japan, Mexico, just keep an eye on who's there, who's what. You want to know who's in your sport. If you took a job at a lawyer's, if you worked at a job at a newspaper and you didn't follow the news, you'd be an idiot. If you were a lawyer and you didn't keep up with current cases, you're an idiot. Know what's going on in your business. Know what's going on everywhere. Paycheck, how much people are making, what if they're happy, who they're working with, who they have good matches with, are they any good? I always found that I could have a different match, like, if you work Flair, you pretty much have the same match every night. It's Flair's match, and it's great, but it's still, you have the same match every night. My match is pretty much, in the last year or two, I've kind of taken some shortcuts, and a lot of times, and so my matches have a similar vibe to it, but that's because I'm putting that role now. They want me to be that thing. But prior to that, if I wrestled Terry Gordy, I had Terry Gordy's match. If I wrestled Austin, I had Austin's match. If I wrestled Stevie Richards, I wrestled his style. I changed my style for every opponent, and as a heel, that's better. Wrestle your babyface's style. Know how all your opponents work. When you're putting a match together, and let me,
You'll call him that.
Yeah, when you're the heel calls the match. But I'll get the reason you want to know how everybody works. I knew how, and on Indies it's different, but I know how everybody in TNA works. I know everybody's style. And I've always known how everybody where I work works, so that I know when I'm setting up a match, I want to set up a match to accentuate all our strengths. So I know when I work Rich has certain moves he likes to do every match. So I know, okay, if I work Rich, I'm going to work Rich's style because I want it to be different. If I work every match my style, they're all going to look the same. And I try and make my matches, you know, a lot of times I'm pigeonholed into the garbage match spot, which I don't mind because as you get older, you get pigeonholed. But when I'm not just doing that kind of style, you know, with Raven's rules, I like to have my opponent's style match because then all the matches have a different flavor to them. You know what I mean? And so if I know what you do, I'm like, all right, Rich likes to do this, this, and this. I'm like, all right, I can put that with that, with that. And then when I go to set the match, I'm like, listen, Rich, I was thinking, and you always be polite. Always be, hey, listen, what do you think about this? You're working with a guy who's more of a veteran, be really fucking polite. Don't say, hey, I want to do this. Say, hey, listen, I had an idea. What do you think? And let me just, you get more flies with sugar. Or more flies with honey, whatever the saying is. So isn't it easier if I go, Rich, I know you like to do this, this, and this. I was thinking, what if we did this, 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 and this, where I set up the match, I know how to play to his strengths, to keep my strengths in there, so I'll set up spots that'll be conducive to both of us, but in a way where I'm setting the tone and the tempo for the match, because I want to control the match, because the heel needs to control the match without stepping on anybody's toes, even if I'm working with Funk. I go, hey, Terry, I had some ideas. I know you like to do this, so what if we did this, this, and this? And then, of course, I'll defer to Terry because he's much more experienced than me, but I always try and come up with some ideas and some plans because I think I'm pretty fucking creative. And if you think you are too, then that's a really good place to use it. But always do it in a way where you're like, all right, if we do this, don't ever say, hey, listen, I'd like to do this, this, and this. Go, hey, listen, what do you think if we do this? And then the guys will be much more receptive instead of telling them, you're asking them. And if you ask him nicely, the right way, and you're including all his stuff, why would he say no? So now you're setting it up, and the heel has to call the match. There's a reason why the heel calls the match. The heel has to call the match because the tempo is all from the heel's perspective. All right. From the minute the curtain comes through the curtain, the babyface is pretty much waiting for the match to happen, whether he's first or second. Whereas the heel has to antagonize the fans. He has to get some activity going. The babyface has to get them excited, but the heel has to piss them off. So right off the bat, the tempo is on the heel because the heel has to decide when the lockup is. He has to decide when to do each particular thing. And it's always the guy who's more experienced who calls the match. It's always the heel calls the match if guys are on the same level. When you're more experienced, like if I'm with a green guy, I'm always calling a match whether I'm babyface or heel. But I'll tell you one thing, it's so much harder to call the match as a babyface, only because if you're calling it in the ring, now it's different when you set the whole thing up in the back, but if you're calling it in the ring, which you should learn to do, and always learn to do that, because anybody can make it up in the back, that's really easy to follow. You learn to do it in the ring. Let me keep that point where I'm at, Gabe. Remember where I'm at. The reason you want to call it in the ring, not that, the thing I was talking about before. The reason you want to call it in the ring.
Calling it in the back?
No, what was he just talking about? The heel calling a match. Heel calling a match. Remind me, I want to cover that. I got to cut it away for a second. The reason you want to call all your, I would say, who's ever watching this tape, unless it's a fucking TV taping, call your matches in the ring. I would set up an opening spot, maybe. I would set up a heat spot. I would set up the comeback and the finish. I usually set up the comeback too. A lot of guys just set up the finish. I set up the comeback and the finish because a lot of times guys want to get some crazy moves for the comeback and they're kind of awkward to call on the fly. And then I'll always say, hey, we may do this, we may do that. I'll throw a couple other ideas that may happen, they may not. It's much better if they may happen or may not. Because if you're set to them, you're expecting them. And the reason why you want to call it in the ring, it's the best way to learn because what happens is you're forced to think on your feet. Like I talked about before, this is a very hard sport. If you set the whole thing up, you're just performing. So you just go, I'll do this, you do that, I'll do that, you do that, I'll do that, I'll do that, this, that, and we're home. It's not a lot of thinking. There's not a lot of adaptability. I was at a show where I was in England. Alex Shane was the champion. So he gives her, so before the match, and I told Alex, I'm going to call it in the ring. He's like, all right. And referee takes the belt, it's a title match, hands it to me to look at. I take the belt and go hand it to some 5-year-old kid in the front row. It just dawned on me to do it. For some reason, this kid was really cute. I thought this will be cute. I hand it to the 5-year-old kid. I tell the ref, go tell Alex to tell his manager to go take the belt back from the kid. So we go to circle around. Alex tells his manager. The manager walks around, grabs the belt. Oh, the people got livid. They were fucking pissed. How do you take a belt away from a 5-year-old kid? So fuck. Referee, and so he gave it to the ref. Ref took it back. I took it from the ref, right back to the 5-year-old kid. Alex blew again. Oh, I mean, not his character did. Ah, fuck. He got fucking pissed. The people laughed at him. The people popped. He sends us. So then made him start the match. Manager goes out there, takes the belt back again. Oh, they took the belt from the 5-year-old cute kid. Oh, what a bunch of heels. So I get the belt back, I give it to him. Now I go sit by the kid in the front row, put my arm around him, and I just sit there with him like this. Now Alex is beside himself in the ring. Fuck, he's kicking the ropes, he's all pissed off. And it got over. Now if I would have just set up a match to call, we couldn't have done that. We killed 5-10 minutes. Not that we're trying to waste time, but we entertained the fuck out of the people. Now, you could say, well, they came to see wrestling. We gave them wrestling. The people came to be entertained. Whether it's wrestling, gaga, promos, whatever, the people want to be entertained. But that's why the heel has to call the match, though. Now, see, I was able to do that. And that's why you want to call. I'm sorry. That's why you want to call in the ring. I'll get to why you want to call. The heel wants to call. And as a babyface, I was able to call that. It would have been much easier, though, to set the tempo if the heel's doing that, because I got to convey to him, okay, go get the belt from him, take your time, set it up in a spot for me so I can get it back. Whereas if I was the heel, I could have said it. I could have told the ref, okay, tell him to give the belt to the kid. He gives the belt to the kid. I go get it myself. Then I can parade it, because I know where it's going. See, the whole thing is, the reason the heel calls it is he knows where it's going. Because the tempo's on him, he knows where it's going, so he can control it. The babyface doesn't always know where the action's going, because the babyface can't do as much, because the heel's busy going, you keep it down, or I'm doing this, or doing gaga, or setting it during the heat, he's setting up spots, whereas the babyface has to follow along.
So the babyface has to play off the heel then?
Yes, babyface has to play off the heel. Because there's much more for a heel to do. There's not a whole lot for a babyface to do as far as character, because he's out there, all right, yeah, rah, rah. Whereas the heel can do so much stuff. It's like I talked about in another tape. I watched Lawler and Funk, and Lawler is one of the greatest workers in the history of business. He spent 20 minutes in the ring watching Funk. Just long story short, it's a global, and Funk did 20 minutes of gaga on the floor, fucking with the crowd, fucking with Lawler, going crazy, going to get in the ring and doing this and that. So entertaining. Babyface had nothing to do, and that was Lawler who had nothing to do. And Lawler always has something he can think of better than anybody. It's just because the heel there's so much more for a heel to do. And the reason you want to call it in the ring is that spot there. If I would have set the match up, I couldn't have made that up, because I would have thrown the script off. And once the script is off, it is so hard to get back on it unless you're really fucking good. And most of you guys aren't, or you wouldn't be watching these tapes. You want to be good. You want to be outstanding, and this is how you learn. You do the stuff, you call it in the fucking ring, and that way, when you're calling in the ring, you're forced to think on your feet. That way you can make up stuff as it goes. You can change stuff. If the people are buying, like I've been in towns where I wanted to do a bunch of fucking wrestling, for some reason I'm in the mood to really do some really bump. Crowd doesn't buy it. They want to see gaga. They want to see comedy. All right, I'll give them comedy then. Sometimes you go out to give them comedy, they're not buying it. They're like, crickets. You got to give them fucking action. You got to be able to change. But the main reason, and more than any other reason why you want to call in the ring, and I'm pretty sure I told this story, but it's the best story I got for it. AJ was wrestling Kazarian for TNA. Kazarian fucking, and the thing you're saying, wow, I've already heard this story if I've watched the tapes. These stories are so good in illustrating points that you can't hear them enough, because they're making points that are so profound in this business that you can hear the story 30 times, and if it takes 30 times, I want it to register. I want it to be deeply in your system where you think about this all the time. Basically, Kazarian and AJ was winning the title back. AJ hits the 450 or some shit off the top. 1, 2, 3, except he missed the guy, barely hit him. Kazarian kicks out. Of course, they didn't smarten the ref up. They should have said, ref, we're kicking. The ref goes 1, 2, because the ref knew it was the finish. Ref counts 3, he kicks out. AJ wins the belt, looks like a schmuck. And the show ended on such a shitty note. I said, AJ, why didn't you fix it? He goes, well, fuck, how was I going to fix it? I go, well, and if he'd have been... Excuse me. And if he'd have been used to calling in the ring, he would have came up with a way. I came up with one in third within 3 seconds. I said, AJ, you're a babyface. Go up to the timekeeper, say, timekeeper, grab the mic. Timekeeper, referee missed it. Referee's done a great job, but he missed it. He kicked out on 2.5. I don't want to win that way. Restart the match. They restart the match, hit another finish, 1, 2, 3, AJ wins. That's it. That simple. That fucking simple. AJ's a phenomenal athlete. Never thought of it, never would have thought of it because he sets all his shit up in the back. Not anymore. Or at least, I hope he doesn't anymore. Or at least, I know he says most of it, but hopefully he doesn't set all of it. That's why you should not set your shit up in the back, because you have to learn to think on your feet. If you got a bunch of shit and something fucks up, what are you going to do? You're not going to be ready to fix it, because that's just not the way you're used to thinking. So the heel has to set the tempo, heel has to set the match. The match, very simple. This is Wrestling 101, the most basic you can get. Babyface shines in the beginning. Why does he shine? He's either a little better, he's got a little more heart, and because the heel, or because the people are behind him, he's just got a little more intestinal fortitude, a little more character, and the heel is either not as good or doesn't have that kind of heart. I mean, so it's that simple. The babyface shines in the beginning. Unless the heel is that much higher on the card, if they're anywhere in the same area, the babyface always outshines them because the babyface has he has less character flaws. He's not a coward, he's not a chicken shit, he's not a dick, he's not arrogant. All those reasons will cause you to be behind. You know, you ever play any sport, basketball, you get all arrogant, oh fuck, I can make this shot, and you miss, and the other guy gets ahead. That's how your character is all the time. You ever be like, you know, so I mean that's a simple explanation as you get. You're just a little more arrogant, a little more of a chicken shit, or a little more of a dick, or you're too busy fucking with the fans, and it gets shoved up your ass. You know what I mean? Happens all the time. You know, you're playing cards. You know what I mean? You're playing poker, and you're like, I can win. I can bluff that guy off the pot. I'm way better than he is. The guy calls you on it because you're a little too arrogant about it. It's very simple. Babyface shines. Now the heel gets heat. Why does he get heat? How does he get heat? He cheats to get the advantage. He doesn't out-wrestle the guy to get the advantage. That's not very heelish. He does something, whether he thumbs him in the eye, then you can throw him for a suplex or give him some fucking crazy move. But thumb him in the eye first, grab a handful of hair first. Fucking, you know, or the babyface misses something. Maybe the babyface tries for something, he tries to go for the whole ball of wax and misses. That's an ideal way to get the heat. But he doesn't get out-wrestled. Either he misses something by going for it, or the heel does something despicable to give him enough advantage to get the advantage. Then he can do something crazy, you know, something big. And contrary to popular belief, if you're a heel, you can do cool moves as a heel. Anybody who says you can's a moron. Of course you can. You just have to make sure you show your ass, continue to behave like a heel, so they're not going to say, wow, he's a really great athlete, we like him. They're going to go, wow, he's a really great athlete, but he's a dick. He's a chicken shit. He's an arrogant prick. It's very simple. That's all how you look, how you carry yourself. So, you know, like I did a spot with AJ. This might have been covered somewhere else too. AJ was the baby. I'm sorry, I was the baby face. AJ was the heel. I like to do the drop toe hold on the chair, but I wanted to convey AJ's athleticism. I went for the drop toe hold on the chair. He stepped out of my feet, jumped up on the chair, jumped up on the top rope, came flying back like he was going to splash me or elbow me or something, but I picked up the chair and hit him in the face. So he showed all his athleticism, but the babyface triumphed in the end of the spot. That's why I was the babyface. If I would have been the heel, he would have came back off the thing and crushed me. It's very simple. If you ever watch, this is as simple as rudimentary get. When Flair is a heel, you throw him into the corner, he does the flip into the turnbuckle, runs down the apron, goes up to the top, and he gets slammed off the top. When he's a babyface, he gets whipped into the turnbuckle, does the flip, runs down the apron, climbs to the top, and comes off with a double axe handle. When he's a babyface, he's successful. When he's a heel, he gets slammed. Pretty simple. Let me see one thing. I think we'll probably get into the stuff you want to cover now.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure.
How about some of the physical stuff, like bumping and or feeding and
bumping and feeding, selling. Okay. Let me just finish. So heel gets heat. The reason. Let me just finish that train of thought. The babyface makes a comeback. The comeback is so important. The whole match is geared for the comeback. Everything is geared for the comeback. The match is a pyramid. All right. So what happens is the fucking heel gets heat, but finally, through intestinal fortitude and heart, the babyface finally fights back and makes a miraculous comeback. That's all. And then you go into your finish. It's that simple. The reason he makes the miraculous comeback is the heel either got too arrogant, too cocky, and the babyface, or those reasons, or also including the babyface finally had enough. He finally took all he could take. The people are cheering, the people are behind him, and he finally gets the strength to fight back. The emotional connection with the fans. Right back there. The emotional connection. It's that simple. The fans are going nuts. If you're a heel and you want the fans to go, when you grab a hold as a heel. Maybe I grab a chin lock, which is the worst overused hold, but I'm just using it for argument's sake. And I hear one guy go, "Go, Gabe." I immediately put that fan over. Because if I put him over, some other fan's gonna go, "Oh, he just yelled at Raven. Raven got mad. I'm gonna yell." So he goes, then the other guy yells. Next thing you know, they're all screaming. It's simple. If you don't listen to the crowd, you're gonna get none of that. You're losing half the match if you're not listening to the people. So, and another thing, when you're getting heat, it's so important. Do not give 35 fucking hope spots, because then you don't have any heat. Every time, a hope spot is meant to give you hope, okay? It's meant to give you a reason to fight. Like, I'm beating you up, I go to slam you, you small package me. That's a hope spot. 1, 2, kick out, cut him right back off. That's a hope spot. That's all he needs half the time. Like the Rocky match, the Rocky story. Did he throw any punches? No. He just got up off the canvas to end the round. And he was like, "Oh my God, this is unbelievable." You know? I see guys all the time, the match ends up being back and forth. If it's back and forth, there's no comeback. You know why? Because there's no heat. If your match has to be cut short, cut the shine off. The shine is not important to the match at all. The only important parts are the heat and the comeback. Why is the heat important? Well, if there's no heat, there's no comeback. If I don't have you beaten down, you're not really making a comeback, are you? If I have no heat, there's no comeback. The whole match is geared for the comeback. So you're fucked. So the only part that's unimportant is the shine. Why is the shine unimportant? Why is it important? The only reason there's a shine is to make the babyface look more athletic, to show that he's the good guy and show the heel's fucking not as good or not as athletic or, whatever. Except, if you don't have time for it, it's really not necessary. It's important. It's like Larry and the Three Stooges. I'm sorry. The referee's more like Larry and the Three Stooges. You don't really need him, but it's not the same without him. I just want to get that line. Alright, so, it's so important to have the heat and the comeback. Now the heat. Once you get the heat, you can do anything you want to the guy. Beat the piss out of him. I would say, if you're having a match, and you're having 3 to 4 minutes of heat, he doesn't touch you. He doesn't make any kind of comeback, any kind of hope spot for the first minute and a half, 2 minutes. And you got babyface going, "Oh fuck, I need to fight." Why do you need to fight back? You're getting it on the comeback. Fuck, drives me nuts with babyfaces. If the babyface ever says, "I need more hope spots," no. You want more bumps, get him in the comeback. And then give him more in the comeback, fuck it. But he's not getting him in the heat because he's fun. What they don't get is they're fucking themselves. They are fucking themselves. If there's no heat, there's no comeback. So many comebacks I see where the babyface, the people aren't popping at all. And the guy comes to the back, he's like, "Why weren't they popping?" Because there was no fucking heat, moron. Fuck, it's fucking simple. Get some heat. Beat them down. If the people are cheering loud enough, they're going, "Gabe, Gabe, Gabe," I'll have them start throwing some fists in and start firing up. But always as a heel know how to cut the guy off. You know what I mean? Without having to use a spot, whether it's a hip check or, whatever, a thumb in the eyes or something. Always be ready to cut the guy off. But you hear the people screaming Gabe's name, you want to let him fight back. You want to let him do something because that's the whole point. It's inter-emotional. The fans feel like they're involved. If they start chanting for Gabe, 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 but we don't do anything, Gabe doesn't do anything, you're like, well, fuck. Why the fuck am I cheering for Gabe? He's not fucking doing anything. Fat fuck. Oh, no offense, Gabe. It's fucking, that's the whole, it's psychology. It's all psychology. If people cheer, babyface responds, heel gets upset, they will continue to do it. If people cheer or boo or whatever, nobody responds, they're not going to do it anymore. It's Pavlov's dog. What did they do with Pavlov? He was the guy that discovered behaviorism. And he fucking had the dog. Every time the dog rang the bell, he got a fucking biscuit or some shit like that. Whatever. If he rung the bell, he gets a biscuit. Rings the bell, gets a biscuit. Fuck, he knows he wants some food, he rings the bell. Rings the bell, nothing happens. Oh, wait a minute. Rings the bell, nothing happens. Rings the bell, nothing happens. Fuck, he's not going to ring the bell anymore. There's no point in it. You know, it's fucking simple. Simple psychology. I get hot about this because guys don't fucking listen. They all think they know everything, and they don't want to learn. All they want to do is work in a bunch of fucking moves. That ain't wrestling, folks. That ain't what it's about. It's telling a story. Can't tell a story that way without selling. The heel has to be able to sell. Oh my God. They both need to be able to sell. They sell, and it's a different way of selling. Heels sell differently than baby faces. But it's so important. The fucking heel gets, the baby face shines, the heel gets heat. Boom, boom, boom. He gives him some hope spots. If you're gonna grab a hold, try never to grab a chin lock. It's overused to death. You grab a hold. You want to try and use holds that they can fight out of, or like I'll give you a great example too. You want something they can fight out of generally, so that they can fight out of it. That's the whole idea. And people go, it's a rest hold. No, it's not a rest hold. You've never been in a real fight then, because I've seen more fights end with a guy front face locked and choked out. Is that a rest hold? No, it's not a fucking rest hold as long as you're working it. If you're just sitting there and holding the guy, yeah, it's a rest hold. But more fights end up on the ground with a guy choking the other guy or in a front face lock than they do fucking fisticuffs, and people go, it's a rest hold. It's only a rest hold if you don't work it. And the way you work it, you crank on it, fucking somebody cranks on it, and you sell it. It's that simple. The guy cranks your arm, you sell it. As you're about to finish selling it, he cranks again, you sell some more. Finally you go down, you're down, you're down. People start making noise. You start fighting back. Boom, boom, boom. He pulls you down by the hair. Now, maybe he pulls you down by the hair. Boom. At that point, one of two things should happen. Either he should go back to the hold and grind it in, or he should stomp a mud hole on you because now he's pissed that you started to make a little rally on him, or he should fuck with the fans. Hey, look at that, people. I just fucking fucked your guy over. See that? Boom, schoolboy from behind. 1, 2, kick out, cut him off, and now get pissed and drill the fuck out of him. That simple. If you're not fucking with the fans, they're not feeling involved. They're feeling left out. They're like children. They need constant attention. So you have to give them constant attention. And they deserve the attention because they're your kids. They're the ones who are paying. They're the one who's making the fucking match. So the heel gets heat. Boom, boom, boom. I know I keep saying it over and over, but it's so important. Babyface goes for a little rally. He gets cut off. Back to square one. Here's the thing. If the babyface finally stands up on his feet and starts fighting back and he's full strength, that ain't a hope spot no more, folks. Now the minute you stop him, he's got to go right. You got to start the heat all over again. It drives me nuts. When I watch guys, they'll be in the heat. Boom, boom, boom. They'll shoot the guy off. The guy runs the ropes, but instead of running the ropes like he's hurt with his face all contorted, all beat up, he runs the ropes. Hey, it's opening spot. Well, how hurt could you have been? Maybe the guy fucking runs the ropes, does it up and over. You know, like you shoot him into the buckle, the guy goes up and over. You're like, well, fuck, I thought you were beat up. You got no strength to do an up and over. You don't do a move like that there. It's not the place. That's something for the beginning and the shine. So so guys do that all the time. Or they'll do a spot where maybe they kick the guy. Maybe they get buckled. Then they kick the guy. Then they climb up to the top, and they're waiting for the guy. Then they hit the guy with a move and go back to the cell. Does that make any fucking sense? You just stood on the top rope like this. Yeah, you have to get the camera for the rest of this, I think. Pick it up. You get up on the top rope, you go for a fucking move, and you go, and all of a sudden you're waiting. If you're at any point, and you're the babyface, and you're in the cell, and you're ever waiting like, come on, come on, as soon as he stops you, the heat has to start all over again. Babyface does it to me, I'm beating him up for another 5-6 minutes. If I have 4 minutes of heat in and he pulls some shit like that, he's going to get another 4 minutes of heat, because he just ruined it. Once he's at full strength, it is no longer a hope spot. So if you ever see me as a babyface, what you'll see me doing is if I got to go up to the top, I'll climb up, I'll be like this. You know, of course you won't ever see me on the top. But if you see me waiting on a guy as a babyface in a hope spot, I'm like this. I'm not like this. Come on. I'm out. It doesn't make any sense not to be half beat up and half done. You see what I'm saying? If he just beat the shit out of you for 4 or 5 minutes, right? 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is. Unanswered 2-3 minutes of unanswered pretty much ass kicking. How the fuck are you waiting for him fresh as a daisy? You're not. How the fuck are you running the ropes like this? I run the ropes like, you know, it's so easy to contort your face. Facial expressions are so important. Lawler made a career out of facial expressions. So important. Your body language has to be twisted. If you're hurt, your body's selling it. You know what I mean? You're not like this. Doesn't make any fucking sense. So you fucking, as a heel, so you beat the fucking guy down. You beat the fucking guy down. If he does that shit, you start it all, I'm starting to get the babyface point of view for a sec. You beat the guy down. If he does that shit, then beat him up some more. Never let him do a hope spot where he's running around, jumping around, woo, acting like a crazy man, acting like he's not hurt because he's fucking you. He's actually fucking himself. But he's fucking you by extension because he's fucking his comeback up. Alright, so you keep cutting him off. But you listen to the people. Let's say you're going for a hold, right? Let's say I grab Rich and I fucking take him over and we're going to use the chin lock again just for argument's sake, but don't use the chin lock because it's so played out. I grab a chin lock, okay? I'm thinking at this point in the match, it's a good time for me to grab the chin lock, cinch it in, and settle the match down. So I'm going to crank on it until Rich goes to his back, and then I'm going to lay on him a little bit and start from scratch and build the people up. Except before I get that far, the people start going nuts. I've seen this so many times. People go nuts, and the guy doesn't listen to the people. He just grinds the guy into the mat. And the people are like, we're cheering, nothing's happening. Okay, we'll stop cheering. Then they got to start cheering all over again. The whole idea is to get them to make noise. They're making noise on their own, and you're going to shit on them for it? Fuck no. You grab that chin lock. If the minute you grab it, they start going, Rich. Fuck, tell them, come on up. Elbow, boom. Pull them right down by the hair. Now you're back to square one. But you acknowledge that what they did to you, that you acknowledge that them making all that noise got him going. That's the whole point. That's why the heel has to call the match. That's why he has to set the tempo, because if you're in a hold, you can't very well. It's so much harder to get your hand and go, blah, 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 blah. You know, when you're going to heel and you get the hold, you can be like, you're right. You know, I always have my face near his ear. All right, one circle, jerk down, get it again. You know, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The whole point is that's part of the reason why the heel has to set the tempo.
Can you get into?
Yeah, I'm going to keep going with this. So now we're building and gearing for the comeback. Okay, now you keep beating the guy down, The more heat you have, better the comeback is. It's simple psychology. The closer he is to defeat, the more exciting it is when he comes back. If he's only beat up a little bit, here's beat, his ass is beat. Here's him making a super comeback. You got all this in the frame, Rich? Mm-hmm. And in between here is neutral. If he's like here, barely beat up, only that far to make the comeback. If he's beat up, like, think about Hogan. Hogan was the biggest star in the history of the business. He's 300 pounds or 290, 280, or at least he was claimed to 300 in the day. And when he was in New York, when it was WWF, and he was on top, he was the top babyface in the planet. When they beat him up, he would go all the way down. He would sell to the point where you thought he was out. Because he was smart. He was fucking so smart. Because if he wasn't that beat up, the comeback's not as dramatic. Remember, it's a drama. So you want to beat the guy up as low as it. Beat him so he's fucking almost out, and then the comeback's more dramatic. So you finally have him down, you let him fire up. The best way is, I see this so many times, I see time and again, the heel will let the guy make some kind of fucking big, like, such a bunch of bumps to lead into the double down. Like a great way to go into the comeback, you can either go into a double down, or he can fight his way out of it. There's pretty much the two ways of doing it. If he fight, and even in a double down, he still has to fight his way out of it. So either way, you have to fight your way out of it. So we're just going to address it one way. And for argument's sake, it's better off having a double down of some sort. Never just go right into the comeback. Like I don't know. Let's say I got the guy in the chin. Let's say I just bumped the guy with a clothesline and he's down, and I go to shoot the guy off. The guy fucking ducks my clothesline, gives me a clothesline, gives me another, and then all of a sudden he's halfway through the comeback. You didn't even know it started. You thought it was a hope spot. Always start your comebacks. Always have your baby faces start the comebacks by firing up. This is why the heel has to set the tempo. You got to control your baby faces. They're a bunch of egomaniacs. You got to tell them what to do. So you tell your baby face, say, look, whatever he wants to do, ask him what he wants to get in. Say, hey, what do you want to get in? I'd like to do this, this, and this. Set it up in an order so it makes sense. And the simple formula is usually, I wouldn't even deviate from this, and I said this on the other tape for the babyface, but same thing as a heel. Couple punches to set it up. 3 bumps and tell the babyface to fire up. They always forget to fire up. It's so important to fire up. I don't know why. You know, it's like they're self-conscious or something. The fans, you have to include the fans. Tell them to fire up. And you gotta fucking, you know, I don't know, you have to talk your babyface into it because they don't fucking ever listen to anything. But anyway, so fucking, you finally beat the guy down, you know, and then the guy starts fighting out of it. When you're selling as a heel, when you're getting hit, snap your head back. Nobody does that anymore. If a 40-year-old girl punched you in the face, wouldn't hurt any. Your head would still move. It's the worst thing I've ever seen in wrestling is guys get hit, and their head don't snap back because they're too fucking lazy, or they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Wrestling's about motion. It's about, they can't feel it. They can only see it. So if the guy's head snaps back, wow, he got fucking his clock cleaned. If you throw the hardest punch you possibly could, and you punch me, I didn't move my head, ain't gonna look like it hurts. You could throw the gayest looking fucking punch, and I snap my head back. Holy shit, looks like I got killed.
With your arm too.
Yeah, the whole body. It's like an electric current. You get hit, wherever you get hit, the current goes through your body. If I'm laying on the ground, and the guy drops an elbow, boom, my feet go up in the air. Because the impact has to go somewhere, but this is all pinned to the ground, so this goes flying up. It's fucking common physics. You have to do it that way. The people can't feel it, they can only see it. So you get hit, your head snaps back. So when he's throwing those punches to fire, boom, boom, boom. That's another reason why long hair is so great, because the hair flies everywhere. If you have short hair or bald or whatever, you have to make twice the motion. You know, masked guys didn't even have facial expressions. They had to do all body language. But man, you get hit, your head snaps back, your body flies back, boom, boom. And the thing here is, you need to oversell a bit here. Because remember, you're trying to make this more dramatic. This is the key point in the match. Everything is built towards. So when he starts firing up, you gotta be like, boom, boom, boom. You're fucking flailing around, fucking boom, here comes the bump, up. That is one of the things that drives me and Gabe crazy. On the comeback, now is the time where you do not sell anything. Because remember, I've talked about this before if I haven't, you can always sell after the fact. So, when you're making that comeback, the people want to see somebody get their ass kicked. They don't want to see a guy do a bunch of, they want to see the guy bump. They want to see the guy get knocked on his ass. But they want to see him get knocked on his ass repeatedly. So you get knocked, I've seen it so many times, guys that get hit, and they're laying there. I'm like, why the fuck did you lay there? He goes, I was selling it. You don't now you sell it, now you pick the time to sell, you don't sell the rest of the fucking match, now you're gonna sell. The comeback is when you don't sell at all. You just go bump, you're right back up, bump, right back up, bump, right back up. While he's firing up, that's when you sell. Then he fucking goes into something else, bump cover, 1, 2, you barely kick out. Now you sell your ass off, okay? Now's when it all hits you all at once. But it's almost like he hits you so hard that it knocks you right back up off the mat and you land up right back facing him again. If you don't do that, you are fucking the babyface, fucking yourself, and fucking the people, which is the most important thing.
And the timing on that too. You got to be right back up too.
Yeah, you got to be right back up. There's none of this pausing. I mean, but here's the thing: if the babyface, and I hate babyface to do this, they are busy playing with the crowd. You don't. If you're a babyface, you don't tell them, say, do not fuck with the crowd till you fire up, because until you've been bumped 3 times. The babyface doesn't have enough of an advantage to fuck with the crowd, and you don't have enough. And here's the thing: you've been beating him up for 3-4 minutes. You get hit, you're down, you're right back up like you're trying to fucking do something. You're like, fuck you, boom, you're right back down. Here you come again, boom, 3 solid bumps in a row. You're not getting back up too quick. That's why it works so well. 3 bumps and you sell while he fires up. He has enough to make a rally, to fire up with. He knows you're down now. However, you're fucking. It's like boom, you get like he clotheslines you and you feel right back up because hey, you're not done yet. You just beat him up for 4 minutes. You get knocked down again, boom, you're still coming. 3rd one, boom, you ain't coming anymore. It's like that, you're an autopilot there. And that is what makes the match. Oh my God, I've seen more matches ruined by bad comebacks than I can fucking count. Or I see matches where heels don't like, I saw a match with Michael Shane and Chris Sabin on TV. Fucking Observer gave it like 3 stars. It's a shits. I fucking watched it. Michael Shane didn't even give Sabin a comeback. They had like 8 minutes of heat. No comeback. I was like, fuck. I go, Saban, you ever let a fucking heel do that to you again, you fucking take your own comeback. Heels never fuck your babyface on a comeback, because all you're doing is fucking yourself and fucking the people. The whole thing is, if you're a great heel, you will always have a job. Because if you can bump and feed and sell, people are always going to hire you. If you want to get a job with TNA, that's what Jeff's looking for. That's why if you know how to you can do all the crazy moves. But Jeff sees a guy who bump, feed on the comeback. He comes up, what the fuck, he's rocking and reeling, he's selling. That's fucking wrestling. That's the art. The acrobatics, everybody, look, up to a certain point athletically, everybody can do every move. And then there's the acrobatic guys, but hey, we can hire gymnasts to do that. That's not working. It's gymnastics. That's fucking working when you're bumping feed, what the fuck, and you're coming up. What else we got, Gabe? We're running low on time.
Yeah, in like 5 or 10 minutes, like how should final thing, how should a heel sell and bump differently than as a babyface?
As a babyface, you're selling, that's another thing, when people sell, like a lot of heels do this, they watch too many old tapes, and guys do the drunk sell, roll their eyes. That worked in the 80s. People are much more discerning. It doesn't look realistic anymore. So you have to sell more realistic. Like if you get hit in the gut, fuck. That looks like it hurts. They sell, or if you're beat up and you're out on your feet, you're like, it's all in the face. And it's if you want to get off, you want to spread your legs and have the facial expression. So if you're selling on your feet, it's like, you can't, if you bend over like that looks weird. And if you don't want to go down, but you don't want to be up, spread your legs. Now you're almost down. It's in the face. You got to watch the face, people. Baby faces sell for sympathy. Heels sell. I don't know how to describe it. Heels sell almost more.
It's more exaggerated.
More exaggerated, more larger than life, because you're trying to involve the people. You want to really convey to the people that you're getting your ass handed to you. But the way you ground it in reality is the face. If the face is like, I was wrestling a guy the other night, I was like, man, your body movement was great. I think it was Jason Cross, but his face was like, I'm like, bro, that looks so phony baloney. Your face looked like you were drunk. I go, you want to look like you're fucking hurt, but your body has to be bigger than life. Baby face is more like, there's more of that, I'm trying to fight back. Heels, there's more of that big out here, like, because you want to convey to everybody that you're fucking rocked and real. What else on the list?
That's pretty much it.
There's something else I want to cover, I think. Let me make sure, because I know we're running out of time.
There's always the next volume with Secrets of the Ring. So.
Yeah, I know, but look, the most important thing as a heel is you got to be the character. You got to be somebody that's believable. You got to show your ass, okay? It's so fucking important to show your ass. Snap your head back when you're punched. That goes for both people. And fucking make sure you get heat. You know what I mean? Make sure that you come across the dick or whatever it has to be to piss people off. Don't shake hands when with the fans when you get there. Walk around like when you walk in, walk like a prick. No. Somebody goes, hey, can I have your autograph? No. You want people to dislike you. I mean, that's part of the job. You want them to hate you, not just dislike you. If I think of anything to add, I'll slap it on the end. But I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, there's nothing else on my list.
All right, cool. All right.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.